This Governor DeSantis on the cover of the New York Post today with the headline, "The Future." Young GOP star DeSantis romps to victory in Florida. So let's talk about what happened last night. Let's bring in our panel, Kellyanne Conway, former senior counselor to President Trump, and Doug Schoen, Democratic strategist and pollster and former advisor to President Clinton, both wise people who've been very close and involved to campaigns and polling for a long time. Just a top-line thought on last night before we dig into this DeSantis issue. Kellyanne?
Top-line thought for me is that the governors did very well, including, unfortunately, some of the Democratic governors. People stuck with their chief executives by and large. We'll have a switch in Nevada, probably in Arizona. But I think the other top-line analysis is this, that realignment elections like this one and the last two before that they take a while to be durable and consequential. So the Fox News voter analysis, Martha, shows gigantic shifts towards the GOP, +8 among women, +15 among blacks, a 10-point swing among Hispanics, 9-point swing among suburban voters, and a 12-point swing among those suburban white women that we talked about. So the actual shifts overall, demographically and dynamically, were there. It just didn't read down to the benefit of every individual race. In terms of Governor DeSantis, there's no question that was a wide and deep victory. That President Trump also helped because Trump lost Miami-Dade by 30 in 2016. DeSantis lost it by 20. 2 years later, Trump loses it by 7 last night. DeSantis wins it. So that's a kind of consequential shift that I think will last. It's not on any one election. And actually, President Trump got 5.6 million votes in Florida, a million more. Joe Biden got 5.2 million 2 short years ago. So this is huge against the Democrats as well.
I guess the question, there's two questions actually, but the question is Florida sort of its own unique thing? Or does it reflect the country? Because we're taught to look at elections, and I'll let Doug weigh in on this first, and say, oh, well, this happened in Florida, so here's what we might see happening. And you're right, the same thing happened in 2020. It was a big win for Florida, and it didn't translate across the country. Doug?
From the shot you played, Martha, we heard an affirmative and clear, and I dare say positive message for Governor DeSantis. I would say, Kellyanne, I don't necessarily think the Republicans did as good a job nationally as Governor DeSantis did in articulating a rationale. The other thing I saw last night is polarization remains strong. Yes. Put another way, Democrats came out even with terrible, terrible numbers, where you would have expected a much bigger victory, as Kellyanne suggested. It didn't happen because Democrats voted on issues like abortion, but they also just voted party identification and were mobilized by a president and former presidents, in the case of Obama and Bill Clinton, who got out on the campaign.
So they didn't care that much about the fact that things cost so much more? They didn't care that much about the fact that we're, not energy independent? I mean, were they paying a lot of attention to the issues? Were they not paying a lot of attention?
They were paying attention, but they were not doing what voters typically do, which is to swing against an incumbent president when 75, 76% say the country's heading in the wrong direction and his own approval is well under 50.
That's weird. I mean, usually you would see a punishment for a 75% wrong track number.
I think we have. I'm sorry. The Republicans are going to take the House. Nancy Pelosi's done as Speaker. And it's more than likely that they'll have a slim majority, but a governing majority at that, Martha, in the Senate. Kamala Harris will no longer be breaking those tie votes in the United States Senate. It's how we got the Inflation Reduction Act.
So you think that Republicans will win Nevada in the Senate?
Yes.
And then also win Georgia?
They're going to have to win Georgia.
Get them to 51.
We're going to have every national star out there, which includes Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump and Brian Kemp and Kim Reynolds and Greg Abbott. I want everybody in helping Herschel Walker because the Senate is on the line. The Democrats ran around and said democracy is on the ballot. You're darn right it is now in this Georgia runoff. And they tried to do everything they could to destroy Herschel Walker and his candidacy. And Raphael Warnock, who had all the king's horses, all the king's men, all the money he needed, and incumbency, was not able to clear 50%. So he's the vulnerable one here. No, I think that the motivation is still to have divided government in Washington. I tell you, the big loser last night is Joe Biden in this way. He's going to run for president now. They're going to read all the wrong tea leaves here, Martha. And the people who wanted to get rid of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and, quote, move on, as the left loves to say, they're stuck with him now. He'll run for president again, more likely than not. And he'll lose.
Mark Pence said the same thing.
I think
that's
right.
And I think it is true. to the detriment potentially of Democrats across the country, because this is going to be a tough record to defend, Martha. And I would say I don't necessarily agree with Kellyanne that it's a big Republican win or even a Republican win, but you will have a Republican House. The Senate will be up for grabs, and how that goes will say a lot about our future.
If it's a Republican win in the House and in the Senate, then it's a Republican win.
But
there's no doubt about it. But you make an interesting point, because you and Mark Penn have been urging Democrats and the president to pivot, to change their tone, to get closer to the middle.
Right.
And now, as a result of what happened last night, they're not going to listen to you guys.
No, they won't.
They won't.
They will not listen to you guys. They're going to say, we've got it all right.
Kellyanne is right, Martha. Joe Biden will run. It's also the case that most Democrats privately don't want him to run.
All right. Well, what about the Trump-DeSantis issue? Quick response from both of you. Doug, you go first.
Big night for DeSantis. Trump will go to knock DeSantis out quickly and strongly, as he started doing last night.
Do you expect that the former president will still announce mid-November, Kellyanne?
So that's up to him. I think Trump can't wait. I think DeSantis can and must, because he just got reelected as governor of Florida. If Trump wants to freeze the field, my advice to President Trump, though, would be to do what you've been doing all along. Don't announce until after the midterms, and the midterms are not yet over. We have to go to this runoff. So I would
So
wait.
you'd like him to not say anything until all those numbers are in?
I would like him to finish what he and others started, which is get Herschel Walker into the United States Senate so that we have a majority there. And the midterms are not over yet, Martha. Let's let the midterms finish. Donald Trump deserves credit for his restraint in not announcing before the midterms and going out there and trying to help candidates as best he could.
We Democrats would like him to announce on November 15th, as he said he would. That'd be just great.
But I want him and other Republicans down in Georgia helping Herschel Walker win.
Fascinating.
And so we'll wait until the midterms are over.